Here is Chief Meteorologist Chase Jones.
Well, we're over here doom scrolling, and all of a sudden we find out that Brian's still working on vacation. Hey, man, let's not be a workaholic. Things are still going strong, and it's a school night, so take a break. But, of course, keeping our eye on that beautiful warm weather, feeling much like Florida as we make our way into a beautiful weekend. But I promise you, the cool down is on the way. I keep saying it. It's coming by next week. I keep saying that, too. I promise you, by next week, the middle of August, we're going to be down there in those mid-90s. And with those days getting shorter, it's a matter of time before we find ourselves in those comfortable 80s now. Over the last 24 hours, down into those mid-70s. A good run at those triple digits, and we're already down in those mid-80s. Only 10 more degrees to go before we level out in those lower 70s again for another run at those triple digits. But at least that cloud cover makes its way in the afternoon. 88 in San Angelo. Everybody else joining us in those mid to lower 80s across the entire area. I'm looking for 10 degrees because it's getting pretty quiet out there again. 90 in Robert Lee, 86 down there in Junction, 83 over there in Mason. So we have our 8 degrees across the entire Concho Valley for a beautiful end to a pretty busy week. That includes starting school, but I know ASU has about 2 more weeks to go, so things are just gearing up more and more. But again, it's going to be a spectacular year. 50s for those dew points up into those 60s, while humidity indices in those 30s all the way up into those 60s. Feeling pretty humid out there, so it's trapping a lot of heat. But we have our eye on the concentrations of yellow trying to make their way in by the weekend. That's where we can see some of those heavier downpours off towards the eastern side of the Concho Valley. But as we get closer towards monsoon season near the Four Corners in Arizona and New Mexico, looking like some drier air is going to start making its way in through some pretty predictable waves. Now, high pressure is going to weaken as we get closer towards the weekend, and then as we get closer towards next week, we're going to see it push back in around the Four Corners. But you see how strong those low pressure systems are getting. They're pushing down even further towards the south, and now we find ourselves on the tail end of these systems, or at least underneath those stationary boundary-like conditions. Water vapor showing you a prime example of it as we keep our eye on the cloud convection all day. It's been so strong that Zach has been on the lookout for afternoon cloud convection and trying to get a better understanding of where the evaporative levels are and where we're going to completely see where they're going to top out and then hit the top end of the tropopause. Really trying to break down the meteorology so you guys get out there and study it while I try to slow down. Now, severe weather outlook still just targeting parts of North Dakota and parts of Minnesota, but we take you down to the surface to get a better idea. No red flag alerts, still seeing some heavier convection across the Rocky Mountains. That's sort of the rain shower activity we want to see to help with some of that firefighting. But we zoom into the Concho Valley to keep an eye on these cooler conditions as we start to make our way towards the end of the week. Now, I promise you, if you guys haven't made weekend plans, you should, because it's going to be beautiful out there. The Futurecast is going to show you where that cloud cover is completely clearing out for another beautiful Friday morning. But as we get closer towards Friday evening, it's also going to be beautiful with that light cloud cover. But as I throw the keys over to Steven, we're going to see some of that cloud cover try to make its way in by Saturday. Now, we know how over-ambitious that my model likes to be, so we'll see if it wants to show up. Steven's usually a lot more accurate than I am. I'm always going to say that it's going to rain, and it never wants to show up. So tonight, all the way back down into those lower 70s, but I have my eye on those breezier conditions. Then tomorrow, a good run of those triple digits, but nobody's really going to care because it's the last day of school for the week. And then, of course, we're closing in on Labor Day, so I'm really on the countdown to see whether or not we're really going to cool down or second summer is going to come back with a vengeance. But I promise you, as soon as we get through a couple more triple-digit days, we're going to be in those mid-90s with those overnight lows just in those lower 70s. Stay tuned on more of the break. You're watching KSAN News at 10.